Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Confident Conversations podcast. I'm a confidence and peak performance coach, best-selling author, and speaker who helps businesswomen develop confidence to believe in themselves, take action, and get results. This podcast shares authentic and transparent, thought-provoking stories, tips, and tools from my experiences, as well as incredible guests, so you can continue to build your confidence and live your best life. Thank you for joining me. Let's get started on this confidence journey. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Confident Conversations podcast, and thank you for listening. If you listened to last week, you heard my husband read my little intro that I had put together. I have a lot of content that I need to record and do videos for this weekend, so even though technically I should still be resting my voice, I'm going to give it a whirl. So here we go and try to just speak a little more calmly. What's fascinating is that, with all the speaking coaches there are out there and people that I follow even, and that I even know, no one has ever talked about strain before because honestly, those people, as far as I can tell, have never recorded an Audible. So I have a whole other level of experience now in the speaking and podcasting and Audible world that is quite fascinating. So I might be keeping this podcast tight and see how this goes here. So anyhow, what I wanted to talk about today is actually a shift from what I originally planned to talk about after doing some meditation and just seeing what came through to me. So originally I was going to talk about niching and marketing. So I'm going to table that for another time. Instead today, I'm going to talk about what we call mistakes and how mistakes can end up affecting your confidence and affecting your ability to move forward, and might be leaving you stuck and might be leaving you with mind loops and anxiety and stress. And, everyone has been through those things. So whatever you're going through, you're not alone. And I felt inspired to record this podcast for a friend who I've known for a few years. And I just want anyone out there that is struggling with something like that to know that they are not alone. So if you're going to be in the entrepreneurial world, it just kind of comes with the territory. It really does. And granted, there's all different stories and all different levels, and it can be levels of, money spent. It can be levels of time that you might have considered wasted. It could be levels of relationships, people you trusted. Oh my gosh, there's lots of stories out there of very successful entrepreneurs that have been in business with people or a friend or family member and it's gone awry. And it could be heartbreaking. It could even break up a marriage if you're someone that is in business with your spouse or partner. It's all sorts of different levels. And Ryan and I have been through many of those levels in terms of what we're going to call mistakes. And mistakes is not a word that a lot of people would suggest to use because it does have a negative connotation and a negative energy around it. But for just the essence of this podcast, I am going to use that word. But just know that, you may wish to choose to reframe and use other words like lessons or gifts. Someone I had on a podcast back, in 2020, time goes by so fast, says there's no mistakes, only gifts. And that's been said by lots of people out there. But it's a good one. So it's an easy one to remember. There are no mistakes, only gifts. Lessons I tend to relate to very well. I believe that's probably why I'm a writer and such a big content creator and a speaker, is because of feeling that they're all lessons and they're lessons that I can share with others. So on that note, I'm going to share a story about a very expensive lesson that Ryan and I had in his business, which is really our business, Good Karma Sportfishing. And just how it all went down and what we took from it. And, if we didn't do it, we wouldn't have been able to move forward in our journey. So you really have to, at the end of the day, look at it like that. Like, if you didn't do the thing, whatever it was, whether it's money, time, relationship, etc., or a combination of some of those, like you wouldn't have the answer, or you wouldn't have the knowledge. And that's really one of the biggest things there that you really have to remember. So this story starts with, Ryan was already doing very well in Good Karma Sportfishing, and we have our boat, the Good Karma, which is a center console that has a really deep hull, so we can run it on the ocean side, but we can't run it on the bay side because the bay side in the Florida Keys is more shallow. So where people go fishing on the bay side is more shallow water. So if you ran our boat in that water, you get stuck, which is not a good thing. And quite frankly, is actually even illegal. So many people don't realize that it's actually illegal to be stuck. You get fined for the amount of seagrass that you tear up, and it can be very costly. Plus, it can be very painful when your boat's stuck and you're sitting on it in the hot sun till the tide goes back up. So that's also another thing to know. So it's not a fun experience. So what was happening was Ryan gets booked up, every day for charters. And when it's the weather is really windy and blows, he has to cancel because the wind is primarily out of the east, northeast, southeast, and there's no place to hide when you're on the open ocean. There's really no place to hide. So he would end up having to cancel a lot of those charters if the weather was bad. And then what would happen is the client would be very disappointed and, hey, we're on vacation. Isn't there anything you can do? Isn't there anything you could do? And this would be the constant conversation, and it's extremely draining, not only to lose the business, waste the marketing, but then also, be having these conversations with clients that you're excited to take fishing, and you're, they're excited about their vacation and they're excited to go fishing with Captain Ryan, and it's a whole big thing. So Ryan, for quite a while, had this idea to also get a second boat. And the second boat would be a boat to go on the bay side. So bay boats are very common, flats boats are very common. Those boats can go on the bay side because they have a shallower hull, so they don't have the same concern about getting stuck. So we started looking at boats for the bay side, but we didn't want a bay boat for many reasons. And flats boats were kind of too small. So we looked at a couple and they were kind of like, it's a little too small, for what he's trying to do in terms of switching clients from the ocean to the bay and not losing the charter. So he wasn't really trying to market to sell to the Bayside trips. He was really just trying to save charters. So we ended up, it was Memorial Day, gosh, I have to look at the year, maybe 2015. And we were in Fort Myers and we were driving, and all of a sudden we saw this really kick-ass looking boat at a boat dealer that's no longer there. And we were like, oh my God, that boat is so cool looking. So we, pull the car over. We run in and we're just outside staring at this boat. Ryan jumped on the boat. It is a freaking cool looking boat that we've never seen before. And the boat is called a Dargle, Dargel. And they are from Texas, and they're made in Texas, and they're really, really popular in Texas. And we found this out by our friend Google, because again, we had never seen this type of boat before. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's big. It's a catamaran. It's shallow hull, so you can go really skinny. And the boat dealer comes out and he's filling us in about the boat. And he's like, yeah, you can take it in as shallow as like 2 inches or something of water, like really shallow. And we're all excited, and it's brand spanking new. Okay. What does it mean when a boat is brand spanking new? It means you have to outfit it. You have to get the GPS, the transducer, put more rod and reel holders. You have to do all the things. You have to figure out if you want an anchor or trolling motor and all the things. A boat, when it's brand spanking new, normally just comes with the boat and the engine. Everything, maybe your seats, everything else you have to pay for. So we were so excited that we were like, okay, let's think about it for a day. And then if we're still thinking about it, we'll come back. So we were still thinking about it. We're like, this is really, really awesome. So we went back. Yep. We went back the next day and bought this boat. And if I remember correctly, it was $55,000. What did that look like? That was, I believe, a 30-year loan at like $450 a month, something like that. And we are just over the moon excited. We're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. It's going to save our business. Not that the business was failing, but, just, give us more volume that we can actually do because of this weather situation. So we bring the boat back home and we realize all the things we need to get. A radio, a trolling motor, a T-top. Oh my God, that was a whole thing. The T-top. Oh my gosh, and so expensive and took so much time. Of course, extra rod and reel holders, the right coolers, more life jackets. All the things, right? So ching, 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 ching. All of that adds up. All right, now we're good to go. Everything's ready. Took a couple months, so this also took time. Took a couple months, but we are good to go, and the two boats are next to each other in slips at our marina. What ends up happening? The clients that Ryan booked charters with don't want to fish on the bayside. Pin drop. None of them want to fish on the bayside. They don't want to go fishing with Captain Ryan for small fish. And small fish are what's on the bayside. Little fish. Little, little snappers, and sharks. And Ryan hates fishing for sharks because they ruin your gear and you can't technically kill them. And it's just this whole big thing. So, yeah, it was a disaster. It was bad. And every time Ryan would switch a charter over, if they accepted, they were not happy. It was just one of those things, and those people never came back. It became stressful. It became very stressful because now we have this boat expense, and this boat is just sitting there. And then I think, because I love the boat. Oh my God, the boat was so freaking cool. It drove so fast. It went skinny. It could go anywhere. It was this big, big bow. Like you could put a lawn chair on it and lay out. It was so cool. It was just this really kick-ass boat. And I'm like, well, I'll learn to drive it and I'll just use it with my friends, which Ryan didn't care about. He's like, that's fine. But quite frankly, if anyone knows me, I certainly do not have any time to learn how to drive a boat, number one, which takes time to learn. And I have no time to be driving around a boat. Like that was just the dumbest thought ever because it just wasn't possible. I'm super busy. And at that time I was a full-time sales rep with, I don't even know how many lines, like 20 lines and the whole state of Florida. So like it just wasn't happening. I was working day and night, 7 days a week. So that was stupid. So then we decide to sell the boat. So we finally have this moment where we're like, okay, the boat can go. We're at peace with this. Ryan's gotten back to, unfortunately he has to cancel people if the weather's bad. He just says, letting you out. We don't take a deposit for that. So, they can go book a charter with somebody else. if they want to get on like a big sport fisher boat or go on a party boat, because those boats do still go out in tough weather. So, and that was fine. So it ended up working out. Like, people would be grateful that he let them out of the charter. They would be happy. They'd call him back the next year. Hey, last year we had to cancel because of the weather. Could we try to get on the books this year? So that energy of people coming back, like, it shifted. It shifted from him forcing people into trying to keep the charter and go on the bay side, which they didn't want to do. They were booking with Ryan because his strength, his skill set, his gift, his mastery is fishing big fish on the ocean. That is what he is excellent at. He is not built, he's not designed, it's not his gift to be fishing for little fish. It's just not. It's just not. Time and time again, we have seen this. This is his gift, is that he can dial in these big fish and these trophy fish, these fish that people have on their bucket list, these fish that people want a picture of to post on Instagram. Like, that's what his gift is. It's not fishing for little snappers. It's just not. Let someone else do that business. It's totally fine. Nothing negative. It's not him. It's not his business. It's not his gift. So once we realized what his gift was and his brand, so they go hand in hand. Like, that's his brand, that's his gift. And that magic, that energetic magic, is what has made him uber successful, like above and beyond. And he's done it all on his own. So once we realized and we understood that was the gift, and we started to have the process of letting the boat go, which is another learning. So we went with the first person that we found to sell the boat, and the guy ended up being a royal jerk, like the biggest jerk. And I am completely fine name calling in this podcast because, you know what, he was a jerk. And actually, how we ended up getting out of the contract was because he was such a jerk that it ended up naturally evolving that we could break the contract with him, which was such a good thing. So it ended up working out in our favor that he was the person that he was, because it got us out of the contract. And then we ended up posting the boat ourselves. We gave it a rest. We gave it an energetic rest. And we ended up posting the boat ourselves and selling the boat ourselves to someone in Texas, believe it or not, came over from Houston, flew over, someone who had the money, no big deal to him. He wanted one of these boats, and ours was pretty much brand new, hardly any hours on the engine, and everything was custom done, the T-top, everything was beautiful. And he flew over from Houston and said, yep, I'll take it. And he had a truck come get it and gave us the cash, and we were done. But what the lesson was out of all of this, that we would have never known if we didn't do it, if we didn't do the work somehow with this huge mistake that costs us a lot of money. I mean, easily $100,000. Easily $100,000, let alone time, let alone customers we lost because we transferred them to that boat and they weren't happy. They never came back. So there was a business loss there. There's a marketing loss there. People don't think about all the marketing that you technically lose money and time and energy when something is doesn't go right in your business. You lose the marketing as well. And but if we didn't do that, we wouldn't be at the place we're at now with understanding the energetics of your zone of genius. And that's what's so powerful, is Ryan's zone of genius, and really realizing what is his zone of genius. His zone of genius is that he catches these big fish. He's like the Yoda of big fish. He's like a master of figuring it out and catching these big fish. Like, he does not have training. He does not have training from his grandpa, his dad, all these stories that you hear. Captains down here, when we first moved here, everyone was bragging online, I'm a native conch, 20 years, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. It does not matter, because anyone can figure things out if that's your zone of genius. So he dialed into what his zone of genius is, and it fit with the brand, and hence magic happened, right? But we wouldn't know that if we wouldn't have done the thing of buying the second boat and trying to change his business model. And when you see all these businesses out there that try to do all these different things, you have to wonder, is it really going to work? I just saw someone post online all these different product categories that she's trying. She's a very big brand, a very successful person. I won't say the name because everyone knows who she is. And I also read that she's trying to sell her company. But I saw that she's doing these different items, and nothing negative. Like, I don't have a crystal ball, but I kind of wonder, like, is it going to work? Because is that what people really know her for, right? They don't. So now you're entering categories that aren't really necessarily your zone of genius. I don't know, right? Time will tell. Again, I'm not someone with a crystal ball, so I don't know. And that might be a lesson that she figures out on her own. It's, can everyone be everything? Maybe, not really. I don't know. But Ryan couldn't. His zone of genius is catching big fish. So then from understanding that, he was able to branch out and create different things around that zone of genius, right? So now he has courses which sell every day, and he's creating more courses. He has a private Facebook group with a group of guys, and they pay monthly to be in the group. And that group is around his zone of genius. So he's created then other products around what his main skill set is. So it's quite fascinating when you look at it. But the one thing that I really also want to get across is I never ever looked at it as like a money waste. I never beat ourselves up about the money. I never, ever, ever, ever did that. Ever. Because why? Because money is energy. Money will come back to you. It will come back to you. I swear. Work hard, figure it out. Learn from your mistakes, and the money will come back. So you can't stress about the money. There are so many examples out there about entrepreneurs that have gone broke and rebuilt themselves 10 times better. I mean, I think Elon Musk is one of them, right? I mean, come on. There's gazillions and gazillions of stories out there. So you can't worry about the money. You just have to think of the lesson. What is the lesson? What did I learn from this? Now you're stupid if you keep doing the same thing, right? That's the stupidity. That's the Albert Einstein quote, right? So if we went back out and bought a flats boat, hey, let's try this boat. Oh, well, that would be the dumb thing, right? But we didn't do that. Ryan instead created products that are in his zone of genius that match his skill set and his brand. So that is where the lesson was, and that's what we learned. And then the money comes back. And does the money come back the next day? No, the money does not come back the next day, but the money comes back. The money comes back. We've been fine. We're still here. We're still here in the same house. Like I have food in the table. I have shrimp in the refrigerator. I'm good. So it comes back to you. So you cannot stress about the money. The money will come back. Just use that lesson, whatever your lesson is from your mistake, to get better, to do a little bit better. And if you just do a little bit better every day in understanding that lesson, over time, that will compound. And it's just amazing. And I have so many stories in this lane, but this is one that I felt really called to share that I actually have not shared at all yet. So this is a fresh story. Again, I have so many stories. But this is a story, and it was just a huge, huge learning. And if you can take out the stress, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the triggers, the mind loops, any of those yucky words that you are going through right now out of your life by just remembering this story that happened over a period of years, people. Like, gosh, I really do need to look at the records, but this is definitely 2 or 3 year story here. And like I said, easily $100,000, let alone stress, anxiety, especially with the guy selling the boat and back and forth with clients, like all the things. We went through all the things, except for marriage stress. We're still okay. But I never blamed him for that, because I knew it was just going to be part of our journey, and I'm glad we figured it out. I'm so glad we figured it out. He's so much happier understanding that he is a blue water, big fisherman captain and guide and angler. And he's not someone who is fishing in the bay for sharks and little fish. It's just not his zone of genius. So I hope you love this podcast. I'm going to wrap it up because I have to record my Good Karma Success Coach podcast, and I'm a little nervous about my voice, to be honest with you. Because I really want to get my Audible done. But Life and Love Lessons, if you love this story, has so many stories. The whole book is stories, all stories that show you how energetic work, manifestation, law of attraction, how all of those things, understanding intuition, understanding the lessons, following breadcrumbs, like how all those things can build your confidence and can help move you forward and level up in your life and your career. And if you're stuck, help you get unstuck. There's tons of tools and tips and stories about teachers that I've worked with, and you're more than welcome to reach out to any of them. That's why I put their names in the book. It's just a book of sharing all of my lessons, as someone I talked to, Margot, would say. I'm a 3 and 5 generator, and the 3 is the learnings. The 3 is the learnings and all the hard knocks I have in my life, and that I share them with you. And that's a human design thing. If you don't know what human design is, check that out on the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I have like 3 episodes about human design that you can find on the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. So anyhow, that's it. Until next time, I hope this story helps you build your confidence. And I would love to hear from you. Please connect with me on the socials or email me at melinda@melindavanfleet.com. If you are ready to start working together, I can help you. I would love to. Have a good one. Thanks for listening. Bye.